So what does it look like to get back up again? Actually getting back up is a step beyond being ready to get back up. And this is the subject of the verses we are going to cover here in Joshua chapter 8. This is Eric Slay with the UWM Pen Guy, and this is the Bible commentary. As always, if you liked what you're seeing, I'd ask that you hit like and subscribe in order to help the channel grow. Now, without further ado, let's get into the Word. So last time we covered sort of an introduction to Joshua chapter 8 and the first two verses. Today we are going to cover verses 3 through 9, the commands of God to Joshua, the new encouragement. So let's read verses 3 through 5. So Joshua and all the fighting men arose to go up to Ai, and Joshua chose 30,000 mighty men of valor and sent them out by night. And he commanded them, "Behold, you shall lie in ambush against the city behind it. Do not go very far from the city, but all of you remain ready. And I and all of the people who are with me will approach the city, and when they come out against us, just as before, we shall flee before them." So this is the plan. As I hinted at suggested in the last video, this is the providential hand of God. This is the working of God, the work out your salvation with fear and trembling side of it. It is true in the Proverbs, it says, "Many are the plans that a man makes in his heart, but the Lord directs his path." But here we see this idea of means, or the means that God uses to achieve his will. The Lord can indeed direct your path through you directing your path. This seems to be a contradictory idea, but it's such a basic reality in the scriptures that it goes all the way down to the very crucifixion of Christ, the central event of the Christian faith, where in Acts chapter 4, the church prayed and recognized this, and they said that all these people had gathered together against the Lord and his anointed, but it was by your hand, O God, that this happened, in order that your servant might fulfill all of the prophecies and redeem his people. And so here we see, and we'll continue to see, God is giving Joshua a plan which will involve much Joshua directing of his heart. And through that, God is directing it. God is directing it. Now, we should say that these 30,000 mighty men of valor do not necessarily include all of the soldiers that are available. We can see throughout the history of Israel that these numbers, while accurate, must certainly have a context. For example, there is a battle much later where it says that 1,000,000 men in the enemy army died. Does that mean 1,000,000 soldiers died? Probably not. It probably meant that there were a total of 1,000,000 casualties in the entire enemy host, the entire enemy camp. That would include the logistics personnel, such as they were in the ancient world. That would include baggage train handlers. That would include cooks, potentially. It could include even camp followers, vendors and merchants and such. Anyone who was traveling with the army. If the victory was complete, then all of these people could have become casualties because they were considered part of the enemy army and therefore valid military targets. Here, likewise, this 30,000, first of all, this is obviously a round number. There may have been 30,217 soldiers. That is perfectly reasonable in a historical record of military activity. I very much doubt that most military histories deal in exact numbers for any of their figures. It will speak of 2 million men dying in a certain battle, or this army consisted of approximately 1,500,000 men, or it would even just say 1,500,000 men, and the sort of historically, or let's say the reader who is aware of the way such figures are used will assume that it could be 1,522,875. But anyways, this is just to say that the scripture is a book of history, and in books of history, and bear in mind, this was probably even more dramatic in the ancient world, where precision in a scientific, mathematical sense was less important than it was today. That, now, to be clear, the doctrine of inspiration of the scriptures, as Paul says, that all scripture is inspired by God, it's breathed out by God. It's all profitable for reproof and correction and upbraiding in righteousness. Now, what this requires is that the statement itself be accurate, that there were approximately 30,000 soldiers that went out to this fight, because that's how the language is being used. What it doesn't require is that it get down to every single person. So, anyways, it's interesting here that God ordered them to go out by night. This, again, emphasizes that this is very much on the Israelites' active side of things this time. The contrast is quite striking, actually. If you'll recall from chapter 6, they marched around the city 7 times, blowing horns. They looked like fools. And then the walls just fell over. This time, the use of strategy and tactics is on such a level that classic military thought that would be recognizable by any effective general is at work here. Attack by night, element of surprise, ambush, stealth, all of these things. We'll even see that there's a certain stratagem at work, and a stratagem is, in this case, that they're faking out the enemy, but we'll get to that.